Good morning, and thank you for joining us for SBB Live. I am so excited today. We have some special guests with us from AVOW Hospice. We have Mark Beland, who is with us as the community representative. But we're really delighted today to bring on the founders of AVOW Hospice, Bruce and Glenna Hayhoe. How are you this morning?
Couldn't be better.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I am just really excited to learn a little bit more about you and get to know you two as a couple. Tell me how you came up with this beautiful mission and what prompted you to create AVOW Hospice.
It started over 35 years ago. Actually, 35 years ago, we opened the door. But 2 years before that, the groundwork was laid. And it started out, I was always a volunteer at a hospital, wherever we moved, and always in the ER. So when we came to Naples, I could see that Naples needed some place for people who had moved here that didn't have care. At the same time, our daughter was at the University of South Florida doing her paper on hospices. So she brought it home one weekend and to be edited, and I looked at it, and a light bulb went off, and I thought, we need to get going on this. So I contacted Dame Cecily Saunders in London to see if we could come and visit her. Well, that appointment would be 2 years away. So I thought, we can't wait that long. So I went to Mr. Crone at the hospital, who was the CEO, and I said, I have the perfect idea of starting a hospice here. And you have the grounds to accommodate. Out around the lake, we could do some pods, and they could be offices and care centers. Well, he interrupted me and he said, Glenna, that's not going to happen. But he said, go across the street to the radiology center and talk to Dr. Schneider. So I went across, and Dr. Schneider was so accommodating. He said, I have a room that I've been saving for an assistant. So he showed it to me, and it was about 10 by 12. It wasn't large, but it was big enough for starters. So then I thought, well, we need to get people involved. Yes, go ahead.
Actually, the meeting with Crone was one of, if anything is going to be done in the healthcare industry, NCH is going to do it, the bygone.
Yes.
So then she started in all the doctors. And by a freak thing, she became the 12th person in a, what do I want to say, doctor wives tennis team. So we had 11 of them. So she started in on the doctors every Thursday, rolls at our house, meet them at cafe, meet them at the hospital before rounds or whatever. Mm-hmm. And after a couple months, the doctors then put pressure on Crone, and he called Glenn and says, I give up. He said, what can I do to help?
How many years ago was that, Glenna?
That would have been probably 38 years ago, because then we started really getting it going when we opened our door. Would have been 36 years ago.
Yeah, because you just celebrated 35 years last year, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyhow, everything seemed to evolve, and the next thing was to get people to work and to volunteer. So our neighbor, Blaine, was the editor of the paper. So I asked him to help out, and he did a full-page ad inviting people to come to the depot in Old Naples for an informational meeting about hospice. Over 44 people showed up. And so I did my little spiel, and after that, 5 women stayed, and they said, we really want to help. So that was the nucleus, but of those 44, they all signed up. Well, then we had another meeting at the church. Everybody was so great to let us have space. Of those 4, one came from Milwaukee, where she had had experience, and she had kids who helped. Then I went to the bank and asked a friend of ours, do you have furniture? He said, well, up on the top floor, we have things we're not using. So we got the young lady from Milwaukee and her kids. They went up and grabbed furniture. They brought it over to the office. across from Naples Community Hospital in the radiology center. Another one of the young women was working on her master's in social work. That was Nina. And her husband had just passed away. So she was extremely motivated. Another one was active in the community in a lot of social events. So we had a good nucleus of people and we really got going. We opened up our office across from the hospital. And then Dr. Maida, who was our physician and somewhat of a volunteer, when he came to the office, one of us would have to go out and talk to people who were having their chemo so that he would have a desk. Then we kept moving and moving. One of our offices was actually in a mortuary.
Oh, wow.
That's handy.
We kept moving up and out. And then it was time for, we had quite a few donors and another person who was.
Well, it sounds like you're quite the mover and the shaker there, Glenna. I can applaud your efforts and coming up with bringing such valuable service.
It was a small town and we got to know a lot of people. So we did another huge ad that said hospice needs a transfusion, a full page ad, and then we did bullet points. So out of that, we started getting a lot of interesting, generous donors. And then I started putting those people and their wives on the board. But we did get doctors on the board, local, well-known people, so that helped. Then
really
it was time we had money and were interested in building a building. So along came Bruce, who happened to know where all the bones were buried as far as land available. So you tell that story.
We both have a real estate background.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn was a realtor forever. I've been a broker since '79, and I was in commercial realty. But I was in the hospital wellness program with Dick Myers, who was Naples Dodge.
Okay.
And I had done him some favors, and he had done me some favors. We were on a little luncheon, and I brought up the thing. I needed some land. And he said, well, I just bought the corner of Whippoorwill and Pine Ridge Road for a new dealership building. I said, the heck you did. And he said, I want to show it to you. So after lunch, we went and looked at it. And the acreage we got with the lake was behind a windrow, and he wasn't interested in keeping it. So
oh my gosh.
I made an offer low. He made a counter offer high, and it went on for several lunches. But he finally said, yeah, well, I'll sort it. So anyways, yeah, that's the story of that. And since then, of
That's
course,
amazing.
hospice has acquired the additional 3 houses and now own 100% of the lake, which is great.
And it's a beautiful property. Mark can attest to that. He spends every day there, right, Mark?
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, I'm on the campus now, and you can't see it with the glare. The lake's behind me.
There it is. Absolutely beautiful.
Named Lake Glenna after Glenna Hayhoe here, and just in a room called the library in our Aspiri Center, where before COVID we have.
Now getting to know her, I just can't imagine her as a salesperson. Can you, Mark?
Oh, hang on. And she knows how to ask for money.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's very important. And Glenna, I'm very impressed with your efforts. You did such a phenomenal job. Mark, we'll just roll into the more educational clinical side of things now that we know where the boots of the story come from, boots on the ground story. Tell me the differences between hospice and palliative care.
It's a great question. Very few people understand truly what hospice is there for and how it works. And
absolutely,
palliative care even less so. Most people don't even know it exists. But I'll start with hospice, which is there to help a person who has what's called a terminal illness, terminal being defined as 6 months or less. Now, most of the time that doesn't pop up in conversations with the physicians. They just, usually it pops up when they have 2 weeks or 2 days left to live. But that's the definition of hospice. That's when somebody qualifies for hospice. And what it's there for is to help that person and the family deal with the fact that they have a terminal illness, deal with it physically, deal with it emotionally, deal with it spiritually. So we're just there to help. And we, being a team of a physician, nurse, social worker, chaplain, hospice aides, volunteers that provide companion and respite care. And we're very fortunate for the donations that we get in, that we're able to provide music therapy, art therapy, massage therapy, and Reiki therapy. So each patient has a team that's assigned to them to, in most cases, go to their home versus the hospice house here. Most people think that that's all we do, is we have a hospice house that people go to. And that represents less than 5% on a given day of the patients we serve. So I have teams that go to where they live, whether it be their private residence, a facility. We help homeless people if they don't have homes. But our team is there just to really help people deal with a terminal illness. And the other qualifier is that they're no longer seeking treatments.
Right.
So the important thing to consider when considering hospice is when treatments are no longer effective, they're actually destroying the quality of somebody's life. That's the time to consider hospice. Now, palliative care is there for somebody who's seriously ill, not terminally ill. Seriously ill could be from the moment they're diagnosed with either cancer, COPD, heart disease, any Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, whatever the disease is, they immediately qualify for palliative care, which is a team of a physician, nurse, social worker, and if they request a chaplain, that helps the patient and again, the family deal with the fact that they have a serious illness. And some people may think if somebody already has a primary care physician and a specialist, why would they need a palliative care team? It looks like you would think you'd have it covered. And I know before I had my personal experience in my family with palliative care, I knew of all the stories and the details as far as we really dig in. We oversee the overall care plan, the care plan. We are really immersed in every detail of the person's life from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep, and if they're not sleeping, and really focus on details and find resources and work with the family caregivers on their stress. And there's a lot of valuable help somebody receives with palliative care. But my personal experience was with my father-in-law, where he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And right from the get-go, we had issues from the urologist and then with the oncologist. And at each step, and I really had to talk my wife into getting palliative care help with us, because he lives in Naples and there was no reason for him not to work with our team. And he was having issues as well, even though he was seeing his primary care physician, his urologist, and his oncologist. He was having all kinds of issues that were creating problems, and sometimes just explaining why he's feeling a certain way, or just what's going on at that phase in the disease makes a huge difference. For example, when he started radiation treatments, he was sore and had trouble walking, and the oncologist's office, and I'm not criticizing them, they did a great job. They got rid initially of his prostate cancer. But when he asked them about the soreness he had initially, they said, hey, it's not the radiation, don't know what to tell you. But I spoke with one of our palliative care nurses, and she said it's most likely the position they're putting him in and the hard surface that's initially creating that soreness, and it's nothing to worry about, and he'll start to feel more comfortable with it, which he did. But just knowing that made a big difference. And I can go on, but even now to this day, he's on a medication. His cancer came back, and that was a whole issue, and they've helped with that. But the bottom line is a palliative care team, just like a hospice team, is there for really, they're like a group of friends that consult and really help people get through whatever it is they're dealing with, whether it's a serious illness or a terminal illness. It's just an incredible support that's available for people.
No, and I know that they do an amazing job in each of those specific fields. But AVOW offers so much more than just hospice and palliative care. Do you want to just give a quick rundown of the other services? We are celebrating National Hospice Awareness Month, or Hospice Month, and appreciation. If anything, I've used not AVOW, but my grandparents up in Wisconsin, I've used a Gracie Hospice, and they did such a phenomenal job up there in the Midwest. And AVOW has such an amazing support system for people, not just adults, but children as well. So do you want to go into some of those details?
Sure. Two things that tie into hospice is caregiver support and bereavement support. And most people think of bereavement as after somebody passes away, and we do offer that. We have group sessions that are available for anybody in the community. They don't have to have a tie into AVOW as far as having somebody who is a patient at AVOW. It's for everybody in the community, both adults and children. So we have a variety of group sessions. There's no charge for that. We also offer individual sessions as well. And then we have caregiver support, and it's the same thing. We have group sessions available for people, because a lot of times when a spouse, for example, has a serious illness, the other spouse's life is turned upside down. Even if they're healthy, they have to really concentrate and really help that person. And they may not be able to get out and just do what they normally do. And it creates a lot of stress. So those are two other services we offer. And actually, when it comes to hospice, it actually helps with bereavement. People that get earlier intervention have less grief than those who wait, that don't get involved in hospice or get involved in the last hour. And they usually have a tougher time getting through things. So it all kind of works together. The earlier somebody gets involved when it's appropriate, the more help they get.
You even have a pet bereavement, don't you?
We do. If somebody loses their pet, we have staff that can do that, and that's very important. We actually expanded our children's services to different types of loss, not just death, but it could be divorce, deportation, what's the other one? Deployment of somebody,
That's great.
It's all different types of loss, and we've actually even starting to do that with adults as well. So a lot of times, there's different types of loss, not just loss due to death.
No, you're 100% right. I definitely agree with the deportation and deployment. Though that's a big thing, especially in a child's life. And for me, it would be all about the pet bereavement. I will definitely need some support when my littles are no longer with me.
We actually,
I always say my kids are not going to take care of me because they're 4 legs.
well, we have a memorial garden here, but we also have a pet memorial garden. I don't know, with all the times you've been on campus, if you've seen our pet memorial garden.
I've seen is it the luminary? Is that what it's called?
The
thing?
it's when you're looking at our community center, and then
Yeah.
the Smith building to the right, it's behind there.
Okay. You have so many beautiful services, and it's such an amazing service that you offer to the community. So Glenda and Bruce, I just give you so much credit for bringing this to Collier County. And Glenda, I'd love to see you in action one day, fundraising. That would be fun.
Just come to the house.
She'll be negotiating a new real estate deal for me, right? All right. And Mark, you do such a great job educating the community on all the services that are available out there. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show this morning to talk to us about AVOW Hospice and about all the services that AVOW offers other than hospice, and to celebrate National Hospice Awareness Month. So thank you so much. Bruce, Glenna, nice to see you. And Mark, I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, thank you. And
Bye-bye.
appreciate Bruce and Glenna for getting this started here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a good day.